greenhouse gas emissions. Industrialized countries like China, the US, India, Russia, and Japan top the list in the emission of greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide. How does Africa and Ghana benefit from the COP summits? To get the answers to this question and more, Dr. Eric Twum has joined me in the studio. He is Executive Director of the Institute of Environmental Assessment. Doc, good to have you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Let's start with this. We'll get more into COP later, but why is Africa, why has Africa become the most vulnerable continent on issues and the effects of climate change?
Thank you, and good for having me. Greetings to our viewers as well. The critical infrastructure that Africa depends on, for instance, agriculture, is known to be impacted heavily by climate change. And that's the more reason why the vulnerability does exist. We do not have the funding mechanism for adaptation. For instance, it is known that there are sea level rise. Communities in Ghana, especially the Volta region, are known to have completely disappeared as a result of rising waters. And we do not have the defense mechanism, like sea defense systems, early warning systems in place to avert these vulnerabilities.
Let's now talk about the COP26 or the COP26. What platform does it provide?
No, the COP is the biggest and the most important calendar dates for climate change in the world, where leaders, this year for instance, over 100 leaders, presidents, prime ministers, over 30,000 activists are gathered in Glasgow to address issues about climate change. Since 1992, where the COP actually started, we basically had a number of commitments on actions that countries are supposed to take to address the issue about climate change. The Paris Agreement in 2015 provided countries the opportunity to tell us what they can do to address climate change. This year, COP26 is unique in the sense that it's an opportunity to design a monitoring, reporting mechanism on what countries are doing to avert climate change. And 4 critical things are expected at the summit.
Great. It brings me to the outcomes of the summit.
The first has to do with what is referred to as the net zero, where our levels of emission will be almost equal to the levels of absorption. In other words, we do not produce more greenhouse gases than our world can contain. The second thing we expect from this summit will be adaptation, where we will gradually phase out coal and reduce our deforestation to a very high level. From 2013 onward, there was a big discussion on funding mechanism that we could have mobilized $100 billion to address climate change. That has failed. This summit provides an opportunity to re-energize and get commitments from developed nations to support countries on climate change. In Ghana, for instance, we estimate that we needed about 9.3 to 15.5 billion US dollars to address climate change in the country. So this will be an opportunity to seek such funding to address climate change. And more importantly, the idea that climate change is not situated only in one country. It needs collective effort, how countries could work together to address this issue.
Let's deconcentrate or decentralize it a little. For Ghana, what has been Ghana's role so far in fighting climate change?
Ghana is blessed to have the capacity and individuals to really address this issue. We have had challenges with funding, obviously, which has hindered the progress of what we intend to do as a country. But we have fantastic policies, programs in place. We have individuals addressing issues on early warning systems that we need to do, building sea defense walls that we need. Our agriculture sector, which is the most important sector of our economy, there are a number of mainstreaming actions that address climate change to ensure that there's food security and we are not affected so much. So we are doing very well as a country, only a few challenges which are surmountable.
So still on the COP26 and in an effort to decentralize, what impact will the summit have on the lives of the ordinary Ghanaian? Answer that question with, what the ordinary Ghanaian also can do to reduce the speed of climate change briefly.
No, I think what we should be looking at, I'll answer the latter question, is that we have come from a section of not believing that climate change exists to the fact that we are realizing that our weather patterns are changing. Our agricultural productivity levels are not the same as they used to be. So there is a strong belief within the populace that we have to do something about our climate. So we are doing a lot of afforestation programs. We are training a number of people on climate change. The universities are training people to understand and advise us on what we need to do. In terms of what this summit means to ordinary Ghanaian, the man on the street like you and I, is that we have binding policies. We are seeking funding to address the challenges that we need to ensure that the country is able to address the issue about climate change.
Doc, thank you. Unfortunately, that's all time we'll allow for on this conversation. Find time and engage with you. We've been speaking with the Director of the Institute of Environmental Assessment, Dr. Eric Twum. You're watching Midday Live. We're back with business news.